Jonathan in Arizona. Jonathan actually called last week and said that he was convinced to become a Christian.
This is a hard
by reading The
left
Case for Christ
turn.
by Lee Strobel.
All right. Let me avoid
Jonathan,
the whiplash. Hey, Jonathan.
Can you hear us?
I can. How are you guys doing? Good?
Hey, we are just trying to pick up after that last call, man.
We are
Did you
doing
hear that?
very real, very connected with reality and its ups and downs.
Yeah.
Sorry I missed you last week.
Even-
I was on a beach.
Shoot, I wouldn't have talked to me over that.
Glad you understood.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, taking a shift and switching to talking to someone who's a Christian, I guess one of the reasons is, and one of the reasons I'm glad that you were on the line is, that when I see somebody putting money in a collection plate at a church, you know, if that church is part of, you know, is a Catholic church, right? Those individual churches pay up and give money to larger dioceses that spend some of that money on settlements for children who are raped.
A very large
sum. Yeah, and for moving, religious leaders, shuffling them to other countries. And when I see that kind of stuff, I don't get mad at when somebody who's Catholic tells me it's just my belief and there's nothing wrong there, what I have to say is that they're supporting an organization that is able to do those horrible things.
Yeah.
You know, and talking to you, I don't know what kind of Christian you are, but I do know that when I was a Christian, we did believe in demons, and that I did see some of that in my life. And so sitting here, a lot of that has to do with, you know, propping up a system that is able to abuse people. And so I kind of wanted to make that shift because you're a very logical person. When you called in, you had a lot to talk about. And I kind of wanted to just get you off the cuff and say, what do you think? What's your take on those things? Because I don't know, but it would be interesting to hear.
Yeah. So I was listening to the call, and my perspective is probably very similar to your perspective on if I were in her situation, what I would do. It's hard to say. It's hard to give her advice. I probably wouldn't say, here's what I would advise you to do, but I would definitely say this is what I would do. And, you know, you could take it for what it's worth.
I believe Charlie is a him.
My family were trying to... I'm sorry?
I believe Charlie is he, him. Male.
Oh, okay. It sounded like a female. I'm sorry. It sounded like I'm sorry. What I probably do is, if my family were trying to tell me that I were possessed, I would probably think they were out of their minds for even suggesting something so ridiculous.
Yeah.
If they kind of blindsided forced me into this alleged exorcism, I would cut ties with anybody who took part in that. I mean, like I said, it's hard to say anyone should do that. But with me, it would be very simple. If someone were trying to tell me that I'm possessed when they have no idea what's going on in my mind and what I'm dealing with and how it's affecting me, how it is, you know, distortion of my reality versus theirs.
Well,
to suggest that they have any idea of how to solve that problem is extremely arrogant, in my opinion.
I think that this is actually a really good window for you to catch a glimpse of what the world looks like through our eyes. Because the response that you're giving of, this is a person who has no idea what's going on, and they're proposing this solution that I think can be demonstrated to be ridiculous. And they're doing it because of their religious belief. I mean, I don't know how well you understand this. My understanding, and I haven't watched all of last week's show back, real-time confessions, is that at one point you didn't believe or were persuaded that you know, there was insufficient reason to believe a God exists. But I'm not sure how connected to a viewpoint that we hold, you are now, which is that I don't mean to be that guy, but that's kind of how all of the religious solutions to all of the proposed problems look to us, or at least to me.
Yeah, and I can completely understand why. Like I said, like I had explained to Eric and Thomas last week, is you know, I shared probably all the views that you guys share now, and like I said, we probably don't differ a whole lot on a lot of the things that we do believe or you know, think about the world and, you know, life and morality, stuff like that. We probably agree on more than we don't, actually.
Sure.
I think there's one thing we disagree on.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the way I think about it is we can have a very amazing conversation about apologetics. And it's something that I'd actually love to do in this conversation. But before I do, you know, I want to point out that we can talk about math in theory. We can talk about physics in theory. But if we're going to build a rocket that's going to go somewhere, we need to know whether or not those hypotheses are true.
Yeah.
Right? Because that rocket needs to go where we're going to send it. If we're going to send it into orbit, you know, we need to know that all of the math is correct and that those things are true. And so, you know, we can wax poetic on you know, philosophies and different apologetics, but when the rubber meets the road and we need to make decisions about where to move in the future, you know, and how to treat each other, I feel like the position that you have is a tough one to hold.
What is that position?
Please.
You know, yeah.
Can you be more specific so
Sure.
I can answer your question correctly?
Sure.
Sure.
You identified last week as a Christian.
Yeah.
What kind of Christian? Do you hold the Bible to be literally true? Do you hold some of it to be true?
Are you following the gourd?
Like, what's... tell us a bit about your faith and what you believe.
So I do have... I do believe that there is a lot in the Bible that is true. I also believe there are things in the Bible that are more probably not true, are more likely to be not true. There's aspects of the Bible I do take literally. Then there's aspects that I do take more, you know, metaphorically or parabolically or whatever.
Okay.
And for each one of these, you know, I have a reason for why I believe it in the way that I do. I don't believe, so what is it in like 1 Timothy or 2 Timothy or maybe both that says all scripture is inspired by God, or, you know, it's God breathed. Well, when I first read that, my first question is, okay, well, what is scripture? Because when that was written, there was no such thing as a Bible. So now I got to figure out, well, what is scripture? The Quran is considered scripture. Do I believe that's God breathed? No. And I have reasons for not believing that.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, that's a really great place to take it. I'm glad you're taking it there, because I'm sure you were going to preempt the first question is, okay, if you have a book that has truths and falsehoods in it,
Yeah.
why would you hold that book up to be something that holds truths at all?
Yeah.
You know, like why would you use that as a guide at all?
As opposed to testing the things in it.
yeah, and I mean, that's a good question. It's, if someone like asks me, do you believe the Bible? Again, it's like, well, what part are you talking about? You know, what story are you talking about? Stuff like that. I can only answer like, yes, I believe that part. No, I don't believe that part. Here's my reasons why.
But if someone says the Bible, aren't they talking about the entirety of it?
I guess it depends on who's asking the question.
Okay.
Like if I were to ask somebody,
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna have the hypothetical. Let's do it.
Yeah.
John, do you hold that the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, to be true throughout?
Okay, so when you say throughout, do you mean, do I believe every word in the Bible is true?
Well, so I would say, to what degree, presumably you think that there's some, do you believe that writing and creation of the Bible is the result
No,
of
that wasn't
any
my
actions
question.
taken by God.
That
No, I
wasn't
know.
my
I'm
question.
asking a different one.
Okay,
Because I think
I'd like him to respond to this first.
Okay.
Okay, specifically,
Yeah.
right? If I were to pick any passage out of the Bible right now, not read it to you, and say, this came from the Bible, will you hold it to be true?
If you were to tell me it came from the Bible,
Yes.
are you like?
Is that a reason to believe that it is true?
Oh God, no.
Okay, because,
If someone
That
says
is the-
this is in the Bible, therefore it's true, that I absolutely would not believe that.
okay, so why hold any of it
Not
to be
for
true?
that reason. Well, I think I have to look at the individual stories or the individual
Do you though?
scriptures and someone.
I mean,
I really do.
Well, like I can pull up recordings of Jim Jones, or I could pull up recordings of Joseph Smith, who founded the Mormon religion, right? I can go back and pull up all of these writings of mystery cults and other things that have led to, genocides, mass suicides, and these horrendous, things that are outside of the Christian faith, and say and find true things in them. And so because I can find true things in them, does that mean that I need to go through all of the writings of Jim Jones to just pick out the true things to live by Jim Jones?
No, not at all. I wouldn't think that way.
Right. So why the Bible? Why are you holding the Bible to be different from that?
I guess the easiest answer I could give is because I believe in the resurrection of Jesus
Why?
and the things that he. Okay, I was persuaded to believe that Jesus was a historical figure, and we talked about this, and I know you have a lot of respect for Lee Strobel, but
Well, I just feel like he was dishonest in the way that he portrayed his history. That the conversations and the things that he talks about, I'd love to talk to you about. Heck, Lee Strobel can call in. That'd be freaking awesome.
That'd be great.
Make that connection. But whether or not that happens, it's the way that it was put out that I was like, that just doesn't feel. It makes me feel icky. But let's talk about the arguments.
Yeah, just to clarify, you were persuaded to believe that Jesus was a historical person by reading Lee Strobel.
the Case for Christ specifically, yeah.
Okay.
And then I read all the other books that he has after that, but
Okay.
that's the one that moved me from being an atheist to believing in Jesus Christ and the resurrection.
Okay. Just to be really quick here, have you read any literature that is critical of those arguments in general or those books specifically?
I don't know if I have specifically. I kind of have my own little library of apologetics, counter-apologetics, and stuff like that. So I have read quite a bit of the both sides. I can't say I remember a specific book that said this is a counter to the Case for Faith or the Case for Creator or anything like that.
Okay, so I'm going to hypothetically pretend I have a book in my hands while we have this conversation. Okay, because I think it's going to help me illustrate any points that I have without trying to get way off base. Okay, so just for the sake of this conversation, let's pretend I have a book. Okay, I wrote this book, and in this book, it says that I created the universe, that I am timeless, that I'm ageless, and that I'm all-powerful, or maximally powerful, right? That I have died and risen again, and I was seen and witnessed. I was witnessed by thousands, who all attested to it and died for it. Right? This is a book that I'm holding because I can write a book like that. Right? That is something that is in my power to do. And so, moving forward in this conversation, I'm going to make references to this hypothetical book and make comparisons back to see if the case still holds. Is that something you're willing to go with me on?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Unless you have anything to add, Jamie, let's jump into the first argument.
From the Case for Christ? Does it have to do
From
with...
Jonathan.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
If it happens to be in the case for Christ, it's because
Yeah.
Jonathan vetted it and feels like it's important enough to
all
call
right,
about.
I was sort of like, can't we just talk to Jonathan?
Yeah, no,
What
no, I
Jonathan
feel
said?
you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we've kind
All
of
right.
established.
Hit us with your strongest.
yeah.
What do you got?
Are you asking me?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm ready. My body
Hit me
is
with
ready.
your best shot.
So you want me to like think of like an argument or something written in the case for Christ, and then it
Doesn't have to
bring
be
it up
from the
in your
case for Christ.
right?
No. You were saying that you were convinced that Jesus not only was a historical figure, but beyond being a historical figure,
Yeah.
had magical powers, was able to, I'm sorry,
Resurrect is what he said in this.
not just resurrect, but I'm assuming that healing the blind, the lame,
Yeah. Actually, to be
people
clear,
with diseases, and to cast out demons.
Jonathan, what is Jesus? What is, was, whatever
Oh, that's a better.
Jesus capable of doing?
Did Jesus have powers? Was Jesus able to multiply fish and
Yeah.
bread?
Did he have adamantium on his bones?
I don't know. Yeah,
Well-
I really don't know if he does or not. So because I believe that Jesus was resurrected, pretty much any miracle claim outside of that is, it's obviously it's easy to believe for me. If I can believe he came back from the dead, I would say the other miracles are trivial compared to that.
Wouldn't they be better looked at individually?
Could you repeat that?
Sure. So if you have a stack of claims and you showed a really, really cool one, does that necessarily mean that all of the other claims there are just fall in, that you should believe them?
No, I don't
Okay.
believe that.
Okay, just clarifying. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say 2 + 2 is 4, and you should pay my rent. But yeah, sorry. Continue.
I guess I don't know what else to answer at that
Sure,
point.
sure. So why don't you tell us about why you believe that Jesus resurrected, and what evidences do you have that show that Jesus resurrected?
So I believe the historical evidence it compelled me
Okay.
to believe.
So-
Of course, the evidence is subjective to everybody, and what I think is valid or convincing, certainly not convincing to everybody else.
Well,
The evidence was just convincing and compelling to me to believe it.
I don't know, because evidence can be compelling enough for everybody. There can be things that are just true, right? Like I can pretty easily convince anybody of gravity, right?
You couldn't convince my dad of it because he's a flat earther.
Have him call the show. I mean, but
God, no way.
what an interesting position for you to be in, because you have somebody who believes something that is obviously not evidence-based, and you're holding some things to be evidence-based that we don't. And so you're in a position where we would dismiss both of you, you would dismiss your father, and your father would dismiss all of us. So how the hell do we decide who has the truth?
Or
Yeah.
what the
Well,
truth
you know,
is.
You know what? Yeah, that's a good question, Jamie. We might not know. We might not be able to know on certain questions. I think it's relatively easy to figure out that the Earth is round. But whether it's easy or not, maybe not. But we have more than enough evidence to suggest it's true, or at least I believe we do.
To suggest that Jesus rose from the dead?
Yeah, isn't that cool?
No,
I mean, what is the evidence that Jesus rose from the dead?
Because I can guarantee you that there are videos of people saying that they have evidence of people resurrecting.
No,
East Asian countries.
This one in particular, I think I've got. What evidence persuades you that Jesus rose from the dead?
I would have to say the outside, the outside historical records for the claims of the New Testament, I guess, to put it easily.
Okay, so
specifically the claim that Jesus rose from the dead. There are historical records that are not Christian that claim that Jesus rose from the dead? Question mark. Sorry.
I don't think they actually claim Jesus rose from the dead.
Okay.
The way that the New Testament says.
So why do you believe that part?
Well, when I think of historical records, I think, like, I look at the historical records of, as you put it, like the non-Christian sources, but I also look at the New Testament documents. I look at those as historical accounts as well.
Okay. So
you have one source or one set of anonymous sources to some degree that say that this person that you were persuaded is a historical figure, I'm willing to accept that, rose from the dead. All right. So just as far as evaluating evidence goes, the distance in time between the incidents recorded and what is written about it, particularly in days where information and clarity were difficult, presumably affects how much weight you give that evidence, if that's a clear way of asking that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so evidence that is directly contemporary would be more persuasive than evidence that is written 30 years later, generally, or at least that factor would place more weight on the more recent one rather than the later one. There are other factors as well, whether someone was a pathological liar or...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right now...
If something is written closer to the event, it's more likely to be recorded accurately.
Okay, right now, in Uganda, there's a man who is, in his word, called by God to lead the Lord's Resistance Army that has miracles reported about him frequently. Do you believe that this man is called by God?
I've never heard of him.
General Coney, 2020 or whatever we're doing with him now.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. At least last time I checked.
I donated like $5 whole back in 2012.
It wasn't kill him.
And I thought my slacktivism was going to work. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on, John.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because he's reported to have survived being shot over 30 times at relatively close range with a high-powered rifle. I think it was an A47. And that's being reported now.
Like a stringer.
Yeah, it's being reported now, very recent times, and communicated in such a way that I, in a different continent, can hear about it, which is much more reliable than 30 years after the fact, someone writing on, I don't know, what they have, papyrus or vellum?
Dude, you got me.
Yeah, through multiple languages, etc. I don't mean to be that person, but it seems to me that there's something other than the piece of evidence plus piece of evidence plus piece of evidence that's leading to this conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Because we also know that Muhammad was a historical figure.
Sure.
Joseph Smith
was also a historical figure.
Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, I mean, I have reasons for not believing in the Quran and not believing the Book of Mormon, not believing the New World Translation, the Jehovah's Witnesses.
So specifically, when you say you have reasons for not believing those things,
what are those reasons?
What we want to try and do, and what I would love to, if we have enough time to, is show that your reasoning for dismissing some of those things may be a lot of the same reasons we use to dismiss yours, and to try and point out where we might have a separation there.
Mm-hmm. And more than likely, you're probably right. But pick a religion, and I'll give my reasoning for why I don't believe in that particular religion or the claims in their Bibles or whatever.
Why would
Islam.
No, hold on. Wait.
Actually,
wait. Stop. Hold on. You said something really cool. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. Jonathan, I love you. Yes. Okay, you said the thing that I absolutely love. I feel like Pee Wee Herman, and you just did, yay! Right? I could be wrong. You know, I could be wrong. I'm open to evidence. Right? That is a skeptical way to view things. And so instead of us playing the dart game where we see if we can land on the religion where its reasoning lands the same as yours,
follow the free thought.
Let's ask you. Let's just ask you. Can you think of any times where you use a reasoning to invalidate another religion that you don't for the one that you're in? Is there anything like that that you've come across?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Sure. So let me give you an example. Last week when you called in, you said that you were convinced that that Jesus. No, I could get this wrong, but that Jesus was the Son of God because his believers did not. They were willing to die based on, what they believed in the book. It says that they did not repent, or they did not, choose to say, "Oh, I was lying." They died in their conviction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there are other religions that have that. That is a common trope. And so
Yeah,
would you use that to invalidate other religions, or is that something that you would take as true if it's in another religion? If somebody says, "Hey, this person died and they really believe in it," I hold up my hypothetical book and I say
Real one.
that Joey, who I grew up with, who was super, super cool, and we played baseball together, saw me do miracles, and he died believing that it was true. He died for that belief, thinking that I could perform miracles.
Yeah.
Will you hold
Yeah.
my book just as true as yours based on that evidence?
No.
Why?
Well, it's kind of hard to answer like as a hypothetical. So for example, if you take the claims of Joseph Smith being a prophet and the Book of Mormon in general, what the Doctrine and Covenants say, stuff like that, the claims of the Book of Mormon are so invalidated through any historical record, stuff like that. Go
The
ahead.
same is true for the Bible.
But that's a dodge, because I was asking specifically about people willing to die for their belief, not about what other
You
claims
said-
are, because we can talk about other
I did-
claims.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't hear
I
you.
did mean to answer your question. No. I did mean to answer that directly. Actually,
Okay.
I'm sorry. So someone being willing to die for what they believe is not justification for belief in what their claim is. That's my opinion. For a group of people to die for what they claim they saw, when they had every reason to, to the contrary, to say they didn't see Jesus resurrected, when they're about to be killed for it. But we're talking about.
Are you willing to roll the dice that your holy book is the only one that has that?
Well, I don't know every religion in the world or anything, so no, I can't say that that's true.
I can actually answer that right now. It's not, and I don't really know how to do that math, but people not only die, but kill themselves for religion all the time in the modern world, and send their children to die deliberately with the belief, oh, my child who's like 9 will, because they are dying for our religion, go immediately to heaven. That happens now, right? The Iran-Iraq war is full of that. People using their children to clear minefields.
Or look at Charles Manson. You can look in our own home front. There are people who said that they thought that Charles Manson was a religious authority, and that he was able to do, some amazing shit. And they were willing to die. They were willing to go to jail forever. They were willing to take credit for murders and things like that, because they saw things that they believed were true and were willing to go to the grave for those things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find either of those statements persuasive to believe that Charles Manson was whatever religious, I forget what the fuck the name for his thing is, or that Muhammad was a prophet?
Skelter?
Sorry?
No.
Okay.
Were you referring to Helter Skelter?
I don't know.
Dude, I think...
To be honest, the name Charles Manson, in my mind, gets scrambled up with a bunch of names of serial killers as well. So for a moment, I thought you,
okay.
like my mind went to Jeffrey Dahmer, and it took me a second to correct.
Got it.
Because for whatever reason, I
think
can't.
of the swastika carved into the forehead.
I didn't know what he looked like until you just reminded me again.
Got it.
Although I've seen that image before.
Well, it's
swastika. Whatever. Jainism.
I
Okay.
so I guess the thing that we're trying to point out is that we don't feel like that as a tool is a good one that belongs in your epistemological toolbox.
Yeah.
Because it's faulty in so many other places for the reasons that you gave, we think you should throw out that tool.
Yeah. Why do you believe that it's persuasive at all, is my direct question.
I guess because of the independent sources that
No, like the dying for your faith.
Just
Why would that factor into any equation, literal or metaphorical, about whether or not?
no. I don't want to misrepresent what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm not saying that someone dying for their faith or their belief is a valid reason for them for me to believe their claims.
That's good. I thought that's what you were saying.
Just to be clear, on its own, I'm sure not. Do you think it factors in at all?
No, not.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
cool.
Please elucidate us and show us
Never
where we're
mind.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, please show us where we're missing the...
What do you find a good argument?
Well, actually, no. Specifically, what about this argument are we missing? Because you still seem to hold this as a good tool, and so obviously we're getting something wrong. Help me, help you. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, and I don't want to. Okay, so I don't want you guys to think this is like he's using this as a tool to believe. It's just a matter of.
He's speaking metaphorically.
No, not metaphorically. I can only look at the information, and then my mind processes whether or not I believe it's reasonable to believe, or if it's compelling to me, or stuff like that. So it's not. I don't have a preconceived notion of, okay, I'm going to learn something, but this is exactly how I plan on learning, whether this happens or something like that. It's just a matter of and this is kind of like the reason why I actually called last week was, the whole is there justification for whatever faith that you claim to believe, stuff like that. If I have this world of information, which is the same world of information that you have, but we come to completely different conclusions, is there something that I can cognitively do in my mind to change the way that I process this information?
Yes, absolutely. It is your epistemology. That it goes right back to the toolbox, right? You have no choice but to decipher the world as you see it using the best tools at your disposal, right? The things that you hold to be true in this world are completely based on how you come to truth. And so that's why we're bringing this up, because if we can walk away from this and you can say, you know what, that's not a good reason. I have other reasons. Maybe we could talk about those other reasons, but I want to pin down on that these people said they saw something or thought they saw something, or in the story it says that they saw something and they died without ever giving that up. Why is that good reasoning? We gave you examples about how that could be bad reasoning, and you agreed with us. And so now I have to wonder that I got something wrong out of this that makes your account of things different from the examples that we gave.
Mm-hmm. And you probably didn't. You probably didn't get anything wrong with anything. What I said, you probably got perfectly clear. So if I take it in comparison, like say the Jim Jones or
pick. There's a whole list. Yeah, any of them.
Yeah, any of them. Take them and then compare it to the disciples or the New Testament authors, stuff like that. To me, it's not exactly the exact same comparison. We have the more modern ones who are saying, yeah, we believe this, or we believe that he's a prophet or whatever. We're going to drink the cyanide and kill our children because we believe it, stuff like that. it's not exactly the same in contrast to the events in the New Testament that are written.
But
What is
but
the
it is
distinction?
exactly the same.
What is the distinction? What is the difference?
Yeah, there are examples of people doing horrible things in your book. So yeah, Jamie's.
Yeah. What is your what's the difference?
It just goes back to, again, like the eyewitness testimony of what they claim to. They're dying for what they said that they thought happened.
Well, let's be clear. My book says that there's eyewitness testimony that I saw these things, or that I,
Right.
your God, Eric Murphy, did create the universe, walk on water, heal the blind, blah, 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 blah.
And 10 billion people saw him do
And
it.
10 billion people saw me. They were all eyewitnesses. Why don't you believe my book that says it? It says in here that it's true.
Because you've already started by saying, I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question, so that's easy to not believe.
Now, in the hypothetical situation, would you
Right.
believe?
Yeah, because what I'm doing is I'm giving you an example of what you're saying that is convincing to you in a way that shows that it should not be a convincing tool to use.
Mhm.
Right? In my holy book, in the religion of Ericology, it says that it's totes magotes true, and that I created the universe and a whole bunch of people saw it, and they all wrote it down. They're all eyewitnesses. Why don't you believe my book?
Because I don't really think I have a good reason to.
You're exactly where we're at.
Yeah, he provided you all of the reasons that you've cited for believing that Jesus resurrected.
And for the exact reason you gave us is the exact reason we give for what you're saying. We don't have good reason to.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, you can give us good reasons. We're hoping you do. But the one that you gave is not a good one. And to be intellectually honest, right along that path, because for me, the top level is I don't know, right? Because that is the most uncomfortable thing to say. You said I don't know, which tells me a whole lot about you. And that's all good stuff, right? But there's also being able to say, okay, that's not a good argument. Bin it. Trash it. It's not a good reason to believe in a thing. There, you could have other things. But Lee Strobel did not hit the point, and you're not hitting the point on this one. This is not a good reason to believe something to be true.
Yeah. Why are you applying these reasons selectively?
If I am doing it selectively, I absolutely don't mean to, and I don't want to.
Okay.
I mean, if we're only going to live one time, and this is my life now, I obviously want to. I mean, it's not obvious. Maybe some people don't, but I want to believe as many true things as I can, and not believe false things, as many false things as I can, while I'm here. So I have the best reality that the best reality that I can have for the one life I'm going to have here.
All right, I'm buying you a beer for that. Get your ass to Texas.
Yeah. Compared to Arizona, it's cool here.
Seriously, and we're here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But no, I'd like to press you on this somewhat. You're treating this one particular religion different than, Ericism or Ericology,
Ericology.
the study of Eric.
Ericism is actually a splinter group that
I'll
got
start
super upset
Ericism
about
and,
the Toast Magoats thing.
Yeah.
All
right, well, yeah. We'll do a thing. But have you considered Islam? Because it has all of the qualities that you're talking about.
It might have all the qualities, or a lot of them. But yes, I absolutely have, looked into it for myself, just like everything else. I tried to begin with the origins. How did this all begin? How did this all start to begin with?
Okay.
And as far as like miracle claims of Muhammad, turning water into milk, and wolves and trees saluting and mountains saluting when he walks by and stuff like that. And if I'm wrong, and you guys know this, please tell me. But the miracles that were recorded about him were not in the Quran. They were in the what is it called? The Hadith or something like that.
Hadith.
Which was written. Hadith, okay, which
It
was
was
written
collected years
close to
and years
100 years
afterwards.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you trust
And,
the Quran?
Well, Muhammad even admitted, I think, 4 times in the Quran that he can't perform miracles.
And,
Yeah,
and Jesus
and his-
admitted many
at that
times
point.
that he was not the Son of God.
Yeah, but Muhammad's response was, the Quran is my miracle. It is the word of God. Is it necessary for a person to perform a miracle for them to have been spoken to by God?
No.
Okay, so in that instance, it's then possible that God spoke to a person, they were God's prophet, and they said a bunch of stuff and didn't do miracles.
Sure, that's possible.
Okay, so so in an instance where Muhammad didn't do miracles, why would that matter as far as considering him a prophet? Presumably it wouldn't.
No. I mean, that wouldn't be like the conclusive,
No, it wouldn't. It would just be a reason that doesn't apply to the conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so given fewer historical inaccuracies in the history of Islam, claims that are not contradictory, like a continuity within the language of the Quran, why is that not a more persuasive book than the hodgepodge of various sources, many of them anonymous, that
Over
was
different
voted
amounts of
on and people murdered each other over just in order to determine what the words on a page were going to be? Why is that not less strong as scripture than the Quran?
Why is it not less strong?
Why is it not weaker? Sorry. Why would you consider the Bible a stronger testament or scripture than the Quran if all of the reasons you're offering are that? What I'm kind of aiming at is that you seem to be favoring the book that is most prevalent in the country of your birth.
And what is that called? The hasty generalization fallacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously not how I became a Christian. Just because I'm in a country where it's primarily Christian, had nothing to do with my coming to believe in it.
Okay. So tell me why you're not a Muslim.
Well, I guess for the reasons that, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that kind of add up to, I guess, why I'm not. Like one comes to mind is that, and again, I'm not saying that this is a historical truth. I'm saying this is just something, this is what I've read.
Okay.
That when Muhammad believed that he was, the way I read it is like he was in caves or whatever, and he believed a demon was attacking him in his sleep or trying to.
He initially believed that he was being lied to by an evil spirit.
By the devil.
Yeah, by
exactly.
a jinn.
But it was like his wife and mother-in-law who happened to like convince him, no, you're a prophet from God and stuff like that. And that's how he, I guess, believed it. What I've read about Islam is that the majority of the I can't think of the right word. Inception, maybe, like how it began was not to do with like religious, more religious affiliation, but more like military force. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but
teachings of Muhammad and what he said was what enabled him to have followers that then used military force.
And I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Early Christianity did the same.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if they were all pacifists, how a thing starts does not necessarily correlate to whether or not a thing is true, right? So in each of these things, what we're trying to do is we're not trying to be contrary. We're not trying to be jerks about it. We're just trying to look into your toolbox because you're giving us examples. Every one of these examples, you're pulling it out and going, hey, here's a tool that helps inform my view of what is true in this world. And we're looking at this tool and going, is this a reliable tool?
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be a great one either. And it sucks. It sucks
Well, I guess ultimately, when it comes to historical events and whether or not they happened, it's probably more likely that we can't know, and it's probably not a matter of...
If we can't know, then why would we come to a conclusion about what happened?
Best thing to say is I don't know.
We can come to a conclusion, I believe, based on, other reasoning, other information, evidence, logic. I mean...
Hold on.
If we have trouble determining and there's significant or sufficient doubt about historical events, the kinds of events that occur all the time, why would there be sufficient evidence for a type of event that has never been demonstrated sufficiently? That is, someone rising from the dead 3 days later, outside of a magic show.
I mean, I guess if that happened all the time, it probably wouldn't be considered a miracle.
Yeah.
Which is why when it does get claimed all of the time, we no longer consider it that way. We consider it to be, there were claims of that miracle happening long before Jesus, and people are still claiming that miracle today.
Yeah.
So, but again, I just want to jump on logic, because logic does not dictate that you come up with an answer until you know it's true. You say I don't know, because saying I don't know not only is vulnerable and it's difficult. When someone says I don't know, I give them a lot of respect, because it's difficult to say I don't know, especially when you really, 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 really want to know, right? Saying I don't know also gives you permission to explore and learn. It gives you permission to look everywhere for the truth. And because we're looking into your toolbox, I want you to see what ours is too. Mine is that I don't think we have the tools to understand everything about the world around us. But isn't that amazing that we get to learn and we get to build the right tools? Isn't that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, but that's what we're doing. Say I don't know. Because
I don't know. I would never claim that what I believe about Christianity or Jesus Christ is a fact.
Okay, then why do you hold it to be true?
Yeah.
That is amazing, by the way. I am shitting my pants in this chair right now. Like
he is. It smells terrible.
It's horrible. It's great. Ericology says that you should like it. You're blaspheming, Jamie.
No,
anyway,
you complain about non-existent farts.
If you say that you don't know for sure whether or not Christianity is true, why do you hold it to be true?
Yeah. How persuaded are you?
Because I don't know is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know means we sit and have a beer together and learn together. It means we create new sciences. It means we develop new things and explore other fields. And we test hypotheses and we call each other and go, hey, did you try this? Did you check this? And you get the same results, or you don't. You take that thing that is your baby and you throw it out because it is not true. I mean, the disillusionment is part of it. The human experience. It's all wrapped up together. It's all part of that amazing thing that we get to share together. Say I don't know. Say I don't know. But when you say I don't know and I hold something that I don't know to be true, what you're doing is opening the doors. You're allowing all of these tools that are really not good ones into your life. And then you're not able to do what your stated goal is. And if your stated goal is to know as many true things and as few false things as possible,
don't believe things until you have good reason, and you'll avoid believing things that are false more effectively.
And that right there is the subjective part, isn't it?
No.
Until you have good reasons. It's not subjective to say.
Oh, I thought you were saying. Sorry, I thought you were saying that it's subjective, that being more skeptical is a more reliable path. What is persuasive and what should be persuasive is only subjective to a certain degree, because things can be tested. The reliability of a type of evidence can be tested.
Yeah, sure, and I agree with that. But things like for example, well, I guess I need to ask you a question first, just for clarity. Are you guys saying that you should not believe anything without proof?
Without the best evidence that you can.
I'm not talking about evidence. I'm not talking about evidence or logic or reason or anything, compelling arguments. I'm just talking about proof, conclusive proof.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
But for me, if you were to ask me if I have certainty about really anything, I'm going to say that I don't, because I'm open to being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to compelling evidence that can show me that I have a poor point or a poor view of the world, right? I can't say with certainty. What I can do is act with degrees of confidence and be very open when someone says, Eric, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's generally what we're saying.
Yeah, okay. I guess the reason why I was kind of asking like that question is because it sounded a few minutes ago like you were saying, and I agree, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with I don't know. There's nothing wrong with saying it. But I also believe there's nothing wrong with saying I don't know, but I believe X. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But there's nothing wrong with saying, there's some evidence, but I don't find it sufficiently persuasive.
Sure, I agree with that as well.
Okay, so why do you find the evidence that you have sufficiently persuasive? When that same evidence applied to something else isn't?
Well, that's a really good question, and I guess, and I don't want to like divert from your question, but I kind of want to answer it with a question. I just want to know, Jamie, because I believe Eric had told me this last week. Jamie, do you believe that Jesus was a historical figure?
Only to the extent that I understand what a Jesus character is supposed to have done. The idea that, honestly, the research that I've done that relates to Jesus is less about him as a historical figure and more about the supernatural claims of the various versions of Christianity. But the idea that there was an at least one apocalyptic teacher or rabbi or whatever in ancient Palestine running around saying things, and that in the early first century, traditions developed and evolved around this person or persons is something that I could say, yeah, sure. Only to the degree which I know what's going on with that.
Give me 1 second, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or how about...
You know what?
Yeah, we've gone on for quite some time.
I love talking with you guys. Well, I'm sure you guys have other callers too, but my son just woke up from his nap. I tried to get him down for a good nap.
Dude, we've talked to you for most of this episode. So
parenting is
keep in touch.
And I would say...
Remember that you can
Reddit.
call 512-686-0279.